Welcome to Vermont Today. I'm your host, Terry Gerolman, and my guest this time is Michelle Saffran. Michelle is a professional fine arts photographer. Michelle, would you like to tell us something about your background?
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Detroit area and left Michigan when I was in my early 20s and did some traveling around and ended up in Vermont and really loved it. And stayed here for quite a while and then decided I wanted to go to art school. And in my research I found the best school for myself was Minneapolis College of Art and Design. So I moved to Minneapolis, spent some time there studying art and working in the world of commercial photography mostly, which was not my passion. I really was more interested in the fine art aspect of photography. And then I met a really great guy, and he was from New England, and we decided to return to New England. So I've been back in Vermont now 6 years.
You majored in photography at the Minneapolis School of Fine Arts?
It's Minneapolis College of Art and Design, known as MCAD. Yes.
Many people have photography as a hobby, but I'm not sure everybody knows what it means to actually major in college in photography. What are the courses like?
That's a really interesting question. It's something my father often asks me too. He still considers it a avocation instead of a vocation, so I'm kind of used to this sort of discussion. You study the technical aspects. Photography is a very technical field, especially now with digital photography. There's a lot to learn. Before digital, there was all the darkroom work that you need to learn, chemistry and a lot about that aspect, the technical side of the camera, and how to develop film and make prints, and then with the digital there's all the computer software that you need to learn. So in a way it was like learning photography all over again if you're used to using the darkroom and the traditional methods to learn how to work digitally. And then there's the art history classes, and because I was a fine arts major I took painting and printmaking as well as art theory, art history, and photography. It was a pretty rigorous program. It was a great program.
When you were in school, did they teach the traditional photography in the darkroom with the prints?
They did.
So you had to teach yourself the digital part?
I have, because the digital was not as widely used at the time. It's hard to believe there was a time before the web, but I know that the World Wide Web was just launched probably my second year when I was in college, so it wasn't really widely used at that point where I was. Now, I think most people learn digital in school, but because I was a little ahead of the game with that, I learned most of that after I graduated through taking workshops and self-study.
For many of us, our first impression with digital photography was with the early cameras, and the resolution was very bad, so you get these little squares.
Right.
The pictures were not so good.
Right.
But now it's greatly improved. Do you feel that the quality of the digital photograph is equal now to a 35 millimeter photograph?
Well, that's a really good question. I think yes and no. Film has a different exposure latitude that allows for you to pick up more detail in the highlight areas. So brighter whites, people will often find if they take a digital photograph and in their white areas, perhaps a cloud, or if people have white clothing on, it just is totally white. There's no detail and it doesn't look so good. It kind of bounces off the page and glares at you. So film is able to capture more information in the highlight areas than digital is, but digital's come a long way, and now there's a lot of other post-shooting processes you can do digitally, high dynamic resolution, and different types of software that's been developed to get you the same exposure latitude that film has. So yes, you can get just as good an image digitally, but it takes a lot more work, in my opinion, than it did with film.
Do you use Photoshop to work on your pictures after you've taken them at home?
I do. Because my work, though, is constructed images, I set up scenes with found objects and different materials. I do most of my work before. I try to minimize the amount of work I do on the computer. I'm not a big computer person. I use it as a tool, but I'm not a person that uses it heavily to really convey the intent of my artwork. I usually do that ahead of time when I'm setting up the image. But I will use Photoshop to print.
Photoshop is a very expensive program. I think it's $600. But since you use it professionally, the cost probably doesn't matter to you.
Well, that's true. You have to have what you have to do your work, and so. But there's ways to. I don't use the Lewis software. They're always coming out every year. It seems like with a new version of Photoshop, and I don't go out and buy every new version. I buy the one that works for me, and then I just stick with it, because I don't think that there's always that much of an improvement from year to year or every other year that it really justifies always buying new equipment.
Have you tried the free open source alternative GIMP?
I have not.
No. That's I have that on my computer, and it's equivalent. I think it's equivalent to Photoshop, and it's absolutely free. You simply download it from the internet. But we have one of your photos here on the screen. You create photos like this, and then you sell them, right?
Yes, I do.
And you've won some prizes. I believe the Champlain Fair this last year,
Right.
over in Essex Junction.
Yep.
You were awarded what prize there?
It's Best in Show, and it is called the Progressive Pick Award. And the reason for that is Progressive Insurance Company underwrites the art fair, art building, and they send a judge up from the Boston area every year to judge the Best in Show. So it's called the Progressive Pick Best in Show. And there were about 900 entries of artwork, all ranging. It's an open fair, it's an open competition, so everyone from young children to very talented professional artists enter. There were about 900 pieces of art, and my picture was judged Best in Show. And it's the picture that you see there behind me on the screen. It's called Ouija Board. The fair gives you the themes, and you have to submit artwork that fits the themes. And the theme that I entered was game boards, board games. And that's my entry there that won the prize.
And you were competing with not just photography, but also paintings, right?
Right. And I was extremely happy to be awarded this prize, not only for the fact that it validated the work that I do, but also historically, when photography is in shows that have other types of mediums, such as painting and sculpture, photography isn't always seen in the same way as paintings, and oftentimes the awards will go to the paintings. They're seen as more fine art than photography. Photography has a long tradition of being used commercially, and sometimes it's not taken as seriously as a fine art source, not taken as seriously as a fine art. I've just kind of lost my words here. A fine art
As a painting.
Yes, as a painting. And so to me that also validated the whole tradition of photography, that when it was in competition against sculpture and paintings, it was still seen as just as valuable and as much of an art form as the other works.
Where in the Essex Junction Fair was the exhibit located?
In the Blue Ribbon Art Gallery building.
Oh. So will you do it again next year?
I will, probably.
So our viewers will have an opportunity to perhaps see this painting and or this photograph and others at the fair next year.
This one won't be there every year. It's a different group of entries, so this picture won't be there. But it is available to be seen on my website. And
your website is what?
www.michellesaffranphotography.com.
And you also have a blog website, don't you?
www.michellesaffranphotography.blogspot.com. It's a mouthful, I know.
And your blog website is a little different from what I'm used to as a blog. Most people, when we think of blogs, we think of written material, but your blog is a sketchbook.
It is. When I first started the blog over a year ago, I did write quite a bit, and I found that doing the writing really distracted me from the intention of the website, which was to share my work and my process. I was really interested in talking about and sharing the thought process and what went into a body of work, which I work in a series, and it takes me a while to pull the entire series together. And working through the series, I take a lot of different directions, and I was really interested in sharing my process with people, not just the finished work, which is what you see in a show. I really wanted to show all the work that went into a finished series of work. So I found that the writing really distracted me from doing that. The writing took over, and the pictures became a really small part. So I made the decision to just post photographs. And every week I post a different photograph that's part of what I'm working on for an overall series. I have 2 shows coming up this year, one at Flindog and one at the Groupie Gallery in Jericho. And I'm working on both of those shows right now. So the photographs you'll see posted on the blog are just my ways of working through those bodies